Yeah, Robert Page, greetings. Why do globers insist a sextant proves the globe? Yeah, I'm shaking my head too.
It proves it, Mitch, because a sextant is designed to work with a globe. And the reason you're shaking your head is you have no understanding of how it actually works. Hi, recently many flat earthers have been banging on and on about sextants, totally missing the fact that they can only work on a globe, that they're designed to work with a globe. Recently, Wes Wally, excellent channel, check it out, put a shout out to several creators to create some very short clips to add to a video of his, which I did as well. I added a little bit of bait for Mitchell from Australia, and he took it. Let's see what happened. Take it away, Mitch.
Roll VT.
Hi, I'm Mr. Sensible, and I approve this message. Celestial navigation with a sextant? You're going to need a globe for that. So that was what Wally asked for. Wait for the bait.
Yeah, you're going to need half of that, Mr. Sensible. And at best, all we've done is disprove the radius of the globe. Yeah.
How'd you like them cherry pickings? Carry on, Mitch.
How embarrassing. But this takes the cake, what he's about to say. This is the premise where this guy, Mr. Sensible, he doesn't do his research.
Oh, we will see who doesn't do his research in a few minutes, Mitch.
And now he's going to realise how devastating the sextant is to his globe Earth and how it absolutely proves flat Earth.
Hurry up, Mitch. I've got some important sleeping I want to go and do. P.S. Mitch, when you are using a sextant for celestial navigation, you're not triangulating your position. Yep, I had placed comments about that in several videos and he didn't seem to notice, but he noticed this clip. When you're using a sextant for celestial navigation, Mitch, you're not triangulating your position.
Bow. That is a massive, massive error on your part, Mr. Sensible.
Oh, really?
Wait, let's just hear it again. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Well, that'll make a change, won't it, Mitch? You even used that cherry-picked misquote of me earlier on in this very video. But go on, go ahead and don't put words in my mouth. P.S. Mitch, when you are using a sextant for celestial navigation, you're not triangulating your position.
Mr. Sensible. Well, how many references would you like to actually using triangulation with a sextant?
Well, go ahead, Mitch. Show us your citations.
I've got 5 right here for you.
Would that be 5 different citations, Mitch? Citations that are of quality?
Let's see. First one from NOAA, for centuries. I'm just going to scroll down a bit. This is definitely from NOAA. For centuries, mariners have also used a form of transit called a sextant and a triangulation method using the stars, sun, and moon as benchmarks, even though the celestial bodies move across the sky. So there it is, triangulation using the sextant and the celestial bodies.
Well, Mitch, I'll give you this. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is a good start for sources. Let's have a closer look. Well, here is your quote, Mitch, from NOAA. Accurately given as well, wow. And you can see from the URL, it's from oceanexplorer.noaa.gov/explorations. This is just an article about explorations. It is not a full explanation of sextants. However, this article does actually mention properly what triangulation is. Once a transit is properly set up and aligned, its scaled markings can be used to accurately determine distance and direction or range and bearing to a sighted target by making transit measurements from 2 perspectives of a known distance apart. The method of dual range or dual bearing measurement for locating a third point, the point of interest, is known as triangulation. That is not what you're doing with a sextant. For triangulation, if you have 2 known locations, a known distance apart, you can look at a third unknown location, and with the angles to it, you can then calculate the distance and position of it. You don't know the angle to the GP. All you know is how many degrees away around a circle from it you are. That is not triangulation.
From encyclopedia.com, the sextant. In its simplest form, a sextant consists of an eyepiece and an angular scale called the arc, fitted with an arm to mark degrees. By manipulating the parts, a user can measure the angular distance between two celestial bodies, usually the Earth and either the Sun or the Moon. The observer can thereby calculate his or her position of latitude by using a trigonometric operation known as triangulation.
Mitch, in your very own quote there, it's talking about shooting the sun to determine your latitude, not your longitude. You have not identified your location. All you'll know, for instance, is that you're, say, 17.5 degrees north. Anywhere 17.5 degrees north around the circumference of the entire globe.
Mr. Sensible, we're using the sextant, we're using celestial bodies for celestial navigation, and we're using a trigonometric operation known as triangulation. Are we getting it yet, Mr. Sensible?
No, Mitch, I don't think you are. You have not triangulated your position.
Because we absolutely use triangulation with the sextant. What else we got here? From science.jrank.org. The sextant. Optical instruments called sextants have been used as navigational aids for centuries, especially by seafarers. In its simplest form, a sextant consists of an eyepiece and an angular scale called the arc, fitted with an arm to mark degrees. By manipulating the parts, a user can measure the angular distance between two celestial bodies, usually the Earth and either the Sun or the Moon. The observer can thereby calculate his or her position of latitude by using a trigonometric operation known as triangulation.
Mitch, that's the exact same quote, word for word. You can calculate your position of latitude. So once again, you have not determined your location by triangulation.
Are we getting it yet?
No, Mitch, you're not. Let's continue.
How many references do these guys need before they realise that they are way out of their depth here? This is from improvedsailing.com, guides/marine navigation guide. So this is how you actually use the sextant. Some related questions here. How did sailors navigate by the stars? If a navigator knows where the star is located above the Earth, he can determine his distance from that particular subpoint. He needs a tool to measure the angle between the star and the horizon, like a sextant or an astrolabe.
Well, this is just a related question, isn't it, Mitch? It's not an article fully explaining and detailing the use of a sextant. Yes, a sextant will measure the angle to a star above the horizon. Then the sailor has to use a nautical almanac to find out the GP of that star at that time. Then with the angle, he can work out how many degrees around a globe he is from that star, giving his distance from the GP. A circle of equal altitude. That's all he knows. He's on a circle around the GP of that star.
Now he has a line of position. When repeated, he can triangulate his position, the celestial fix. You are definitely using triangulation, Mr. Sensible, when using the sextant.
Nope, that's just using the colloquial term because it's not triangulation. When you have taken several fixes, you have calculated several circles of equal altitude. So what do you do with those? You don't triangulate. You do something else, Mitch.
Are we feeling silly yet?
Well, I don't know if you are yet, Mitch, but you're going to.
Let's give him one more, just for good measure. We are definitely using triangulation for the sextant. True bearing. Let's consider three main things to take into account here: the stars, the skyline, and you. Using a sextant or another angle measuring device, you can use these three different points to triangulate your position. The sextant, for example, uses the horizon and a celestial body in the sky in order to determine where you are.
Mitch, the sextant can do one thing and one thing only. It measures the altitude of the celestial object. Then, knowing the angle of altitude, you can calculate how many degrees off of your zenith that object is. For every degree, you are 60 nautical miles away from the GP of that object, wherever that GP is. This is why sextants only work on a globe, Mitch, because that distance, that 60 nautical miles per degree, is degrees around a circle. And as the Earth is a three-dimensional object, that gives you a circle of equal altitude. It gives you a circle around the GP, a circle of equal altitude. Based on the globe, if you had 4 sailors all shooting the same star at the same time and getting values of 10, 20, 30, 40 degrees off of their zenith, their distances would be 600, 1200, 1800 and 2400 miles from the GP of the star. But on a flat Earth, it doesn't work. The angle of altitude to that star from those various positions, and therefore its angle from your zenith, does not equate to any given distance. Basically, you have no idea how far away from the GP you are. Oh dear.
There's a very easy guide on how to use this here. If you want to go to that, Mr. Sensible, and actually learn how we use a sextant, there it is.
Oh yes, Mitch, we will have a look at that guide and your level of research shortly.
It's as simple as that. Globe believers, you're in a world of pain at the moment. Mr. Sensible, do you want to repeat your claim? I'm so happy that Mr. Sensible has weighed in on this argument. And this is why. You get golden nuggets like this.
Yes, Mitch, and this golden nugget is a baited hook, and you swallowed it. This hook was set because I knew you'd jump on it, and I knew it would be an excellent chance to show that you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about with regard to sextants. P.S. Mitch, when you are using a sextant for celestial navigation, you're not triangulating your position.
Isn't it glorious? I got 5 references there, Mr. Sensible. You're going to come back and say we're still not using triangulation when we're using a sextant for celestial navigation?
Right, I think the first thing we need to do, Mitch, is teach you what triangulation actually is. Here is a lovely forest, and forests can give us an excellent example of triangulation. The problem with forests is occasionally you get forest fires. Thankfully, we've got people like this. Alice, who is a forest fire lookout. Alice spends all day scanning the forest from up high, looking out for forest fires. She's sat in her forest fire lookout tower. All of a sudden, Alice notices there's a forest fire has started. She carefully notes the exact direction of that fire and sees that it's at 45 degrees northeast. That's brilliant. That tells her the direction the fire is, but not how far away or exactly where it is. Fortunately, Alice has 2 friends, Bob and Charlie, who are also fire lookout guards. She gets on the radio and tells Bob and Charlie that there's currently a fire, and they go and have a look. Charlie quickly spots the fire and reports the bearing to the fire from his tower, his known position. Shortly after, Bob does the same, so we now have 3 bearings on the location of that fire, which gives us an exact location. That is triangulation. So with multiple known locations and known angles to the unknown position, you can calculate the location of that position. Man, working on your boat, do you think Mitch is correct when he says you use triangulation with a sextant?
Oh, I don't know anything about that, but I do love fluffy little kittens.
Kittens, the answer to all life's problems. Okay, Mitch, we better show you what you do with a sextant. Here is the ocean, and here is Mitch. He's on an expedition. He's going south, trying to prove that the ice wall exists. Unfortunately, he has no idea where he is in that ocean. Fortunately, looking amongst his equipment, he finds he has a sextant. After chewing it for a while and then finally realising he couldn't eat it, he uses it to take a fix on a star. This is brilliant. Mitch now knows he's 500 nautical miles from the GP of that star. Unfortunately, he doesn't know where around that circle of equal altitude he is. However, apparently Mitch is a sextant expert and realises he should take a second fix. That gives him another circle of equal altitude. He now has 2 figures. He knows he is 500 nautical miles from the GP of the first star and 350 nautical miles from the GP of the second star. That means he can only be in one of 2 positions, where those two circles of equal altitude cross. So it's a bit of a conundrum. Mitch has no way of knowing which of those two positions he's currently at. He takes a third fix. Now the story changes. With 3 data points, Mitch knows he's 500 nautical miles from the first star's GP, 350 nautical miles from the second star's GP, and 1,000 nautical miles from the third star's GP. That gives only one possible location. He now knows where he is. Triangulation is a process where you know the angles to several known positions, and then you can calculate the distances based on a triangle. This is an entirely different process. All you know is the distances to several known locations. This process is called trilateration, not triangulation.
Well, this guy, Mr. Sensible, he doesn't do his research.
Right, Mitch, let's see who doesn't do their research. We're going to start by going back to your reference at NOAA. So here we are back at your NOAA article. You had obviously Googled the word triangulation, having never heard of the word trilateration. If you actually do a search on NOAA for trilateration, you come up with this. This is information for grades 7 and 8 Earth Science students. If you look, it's got trilateration. It's actually discussing GPS, but the concept is the same. The basic concept underlying GPS is the idea that geographic position of an unknown location can be determined by measuring the distance from that location to 3 reference points whose locations are known. This method for finding position is known as trilateration. Trilateration is based on finding position using distance between an unknown point and reference points, while triangulation is the method for finding position using angles between an unknown point and 2 or more reference points. When you're in the middle of the ocean and using a sextant, you do not have angles to those positions. You use trilateration. I think, Mitch, though, that we need to go back to look at your quote that you pulled from NOAA. You have obviously used NOAA as a valid source to back up your argument. So let's have another look, because what have we got later on which you didn't show? Oh yes, an explanation of GPS. Mitch, you're going to need a globe for that. You're going to need Fundy space vacuum for that. You're going to need satellites for that. Oh dear, Mitch. It would seem that although you didn't cherry pick from the quote, you cherry picked from the article.
Well, this guy, Mr. Sensible, he doesn't do his research.
Is that right, Mitch? But apparently you do your research. I seem to remember you saying something about a guide earlier on. What was that?
There's a very easy guide on how to use this here. If you want to go to that, Mr. Sensible, and actually learn how we use a sextant, there it is.
True bearings, nautical news for today's mariners. Ocean graphics. Well, Mitch, following your good advice, I do want to look at this guide and find out how to use a sextant like you have. Okay, here it is. Let's have a bit of a look. That's right, there's a very easy guide on how to use one here. So Mitch, this is this guide, this sextant guide that you're recommending to me, having done your research, Mitch. Excellent. Let's have a look at it. This page has been removed. You complete and utter gimboid. You total smeghead. Your research is worth a pile of fetid dingo's kidneys. You have provided a reference and a recommendation for a guide that isn't even there.
There's a very easy guide on how to use this here. If you want to go to that, Mr. Sensible, and actually learn how we use a sextant, there it is.
So there we have it. That is the quality of Mitch's research.
Well, this guy, Mr. Sensible, he doesn't do his research.
He studied how to use a sextant from a guide that doesn't even exist.
See, Mitch? Told you he was right. Mr. Sensible, he's no Mr. Dummy.
Until next time, stay sensible.
Shut up and sit down.